Moaz Masood, thank you very much indeed. You look at Ed Hussein's experience and you say it's not representative, small numbers. That's complacency, isn't it? That's pretty close to complacency. It doesn't matter whether the numbers are small or large. It matters what damage they can cause in society, doesn't it?
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, the second part, at least, it's about the damage. But all I'm saying is that to draw a conclusion about an entire civilization would need a representative sample. I think that the UK, or Muslims in the UK, I think it's a very unique situation that doesn't represent Muslims anywhere else in the world.
So you're concerned about the situation of Muslims in the UK?
I'm very much concerned. That's why I filmed...
And it's failing in the UK, is it?
If this was only about in the UK, maybe I would have been on Ed's side. Possibly. I would need to do some more research.
So you would go halfway towards their side?
No, I think the UK represents a smaller percentage of the world, but I would go maybe 10% or 5%.
But the same kind of literature calling for the death of non-believers that's outside, being sold outside a mosque that's in Saudi Arabia or in London, well, you don't condemn that?
I do, and I think that Saudi Arabia and the UK, that would be the Western example and the anomaly, and this would be the Arab anomaly.
Do you know what kind of literature is being sold outside your mosque?
In Egypt?
Yes.
I think very spiritual literature, personally. I come from a mosque by my house called Ahl al-Bayt, the family of the Prophet. They're known to be a lot more.
Have you looked at the literature?
Personally, the one sold by my mosque, yeah.
Yeah, you've looked at it and it doesn't contain any exhortations to kill non-believers?
No, I think that the kind of extremism or the kind of concern that I would have with the non-anomalous areas, which I still believe are a majority, would be about sympathy maybe, but not perpetrating acts of violence or calling them justified.
All right, Moaz Masood, thank you very much indeed. I'm going to throw the questions open to the floor. Our motion being this House believes that Muslims are failing to combat extremism. Let's take a gentleman in the first row.
Don't you think that the Western societies, they are not helping Muslims in order to fight against terrorism or the extremism?
Okay, well let's have Ed Hussein answer that question. Are they helping?
This is part of the mentality that constantly shifts the blame to the other, that somehow the West has got something to do with it. This is our problem.
No, we're trying, but I mean, they're actually escalating.
Can you let him finish?
If I may, it was in the 18th century that the roots of this problem started in Najd, when one man decided that with him and his tribe they will oust everyone else who opposes them. What we see in the heartland of Islam, Mecca and Medina today, is the kind of extremism that I'm talking about, that doesn't tolerate the other, even within our faith. So the Wahhabis in Saudi Arabia can't tolerate the Sunni Sufis or the Shia, never mind the non-Muslim infidel that resides elsewhere. So for me, it's about becoming more tolerant within the Muslim tradition and then extending that tolerance outside. So let's put our house in order first before we constantly blame the other.
We're not blaming, we're just saying that they are not helping us. And I'm pretty sure that you guys agree with me. They're not helping. If they're invading Iraq, if they're, also saying that, the United Nations, using the veto against the United Nations, condemning the siege against Gaza, these are the things that are, striving the local communities in different countries.
Okay, Arsalan Iftikhar.
And as a Muslim public diplomat who deals with all of these issues, this begins to get into the debate of moral equivocation, where I said before, two wrongs do not make a right. If I come to you and I slap you in the face, that gives you no right to go and slap Ed in the face. We have, as Muslims, we have a religious obligation in Islam to not only help our oppressed brothers, but also call out our brothers when they are being the oppressors. We all know the Bukhari tradition of the Prophet ﷺ, where he said, help your brother whether he's an oppressor or the oppressed. But we tend to only focus on the oppressed, and we take a blind eye when Muslims around the world are claiming to make acts and do acts and perform acts in the name of Islam, and then say, oh, but we're doing it because of something that's going on halfway around the world.
I'm going to take a quick comment from Daisy Khan.
Yeah, I think we really have to know what the root cause of extremism is. 90% of extremism comes about because people are looking for either political liberation or some kind of self-determination. It's not about the theology of Islam. That is not what we're debating here today. And I think that only 10% is about social justice, which really means, political empowerment and economic empowerment. There was no extremism in Afghanistan before the Soviets walked in. Let me finish. Let me give you some stats. There was no extremism in Iraq.
Please, very, very briefly.
Before we walked in there, Senator Obama said the other day that, George Bush drove the bus into the ditch, and now everybody else has to get the bus out. And then if we go into Iran tomorrow, you can be rest assured that there will be a rise of extremism in Iran also. So we have to take some responsibility as Western Muslims as well.
And Hussein, do you want to come back very briefly on that?
Sure.
It's a reaction to a lot of political upheaval.
With respect, it's not fair to say that the theology doesn't have anything to do with it when repeatedly suicide bombers are talking about going into Jannah and sharing their lives with the 72 virgin wives. We've got to be honest and say there is a misreading of theology, of scripture here, that contributes to the political grievances that you rightly allude to.
Thank you. I'm going to take a question from the lady in the third row. There, we'll get a microphone to you, please.
Why would we label these people suicide bombers when their enemies are being supplied with F-16s and Apaches? And they're bombing them every day. What other alternative do these people have? This is the question. If you try to liberate the people that are doing that and give them their rights, they will not resort to such a thing. They don't have any other alternative.
I would ask you a simple question in response. Is there a categorical prohibition of suicide in Islam? Is there any...
Of suicide bombing?
No, just of suicide in general. I mean, getting assigned to the bombs. It is categorical.
See, we're not condoning suicide. It is haram in Islam. We understand that. But they are in a situation where we have to understand fiqhul waqa. This is a reality of the situation. What alternative do they have?
So you're
this is what I'm asking. You're not condoning suicide. These are under other...
You're not condoning it, but are you justifying it?
No, we're not justifying anything. If these were in Vietnam, or if these were in any other country, they would do the same thing.
Again,
and this has happened all over history. You can find it. If they're freedom fighters, they need a way out.
Okay, let's ask
We're not condoning violence, we're not condoning suicide.
Okay, thank you. Talking from within a Muslim paradigm now to respond to this kind of question. The orthodox standpoint is anti-suicide, the orthodox standpoint is anti the killing of civilians, and the orthodox standpoint is anti-suicide with the purpose of killing of civilians. Now, some people might emotionally have the tendency to hear this as an apathy towards the Palestinian people. But those who take this standpoint actually are trying to do what will supposedly bring God's blessing into the area. And so I think that, again, it's just, we're going back to the point that the orthodox understanding of Islam doesn't have enough light on it, and nobody's speaking its language to the people. And then all we have right now is a radical minority with loud voices and then confused masses with emotions, and they're just going at each other. I think it's time for Islam to speak about Islam.
All right, let's take a question from the lady on the fourth row there, please.
Good evening. My question is to the panel against the motion, and I really do not mean to underestimate the efforts of everyone fighting extremism, but I'd like to take you to the situation in Iraq, and we view the Muslim community over there killing each other, and the global Muslim community is very much expected to react in a certain way that matches the severity of the situation in Iraq, and we haven't seen that from the global Muslim society.
Daisy Khan.
Well, I think that ordinary citizens have to step up. And unfortunately, I think it's ordinary Iraqis that have to come together and ask for a stop to violence.
They are coming together, I know that for sure. And I speak that from experience because I'm Iraqi, but we still don't see a reaction from the Muslim society. They're not, I feel sometimes that they don't fight it as much as they fight other issues like the Denmark, the cartoons in Denmark, for example.
I know that the Shia and the Sunni community in America is getting together to make sure that this does not